Sent from Disneyland, history in our hand. So much to say about yesterday and the decades we have spanned. Postcards from the park, this journey will embark. See what has changed and what remains on Sent from Disneyland. Sent from Disneyland.
Welcome to the Sent from Disneyland podcast.
Here age relives fond memories of the past.
If it's your first time joining us, welcome. On this podcast, we'll take a journey into the past and explore Disneyland, Disneyland history, and more, with mementos, snapshots, souvenirs, and postcards sent from Disneyland, from 1955 to the present. Let's start by thanking my patrons from patreon.com. You can join in at any level to support the show and receive snail mail from my trips to Disneyland and from my desk, plus some sneak peeks and bonus content. Special thanks to Random Olive, the first patron to this podcast, and to the rest of the e-ticket patrons, Tania, Eric Daniels, Monica Seitz Vega, Scott Cagle, Russ Romano, Michael and Christina Cross, and Sheila Harry. C-ticket patrons Serious Inquiries Only, Debbie Weinstein, Jennifer Schneep, Angela Reynolds, Grace Coate, Patty Wolin, and Ben and Noel Bruning. B-ticket patron Joshua Bell, and to the A-ticket patrons Elise Sharp, Zealot Infinity, Alexis Robles, Angel DeBlock, and the Beyond the Railroad podcast. I am your host, your post-host Clocky, and today we have 2 postcards sent from Disneyland. The front of our first postcard has the Mark Twain leaving the dock and heading out on a trip around the rivers of America. If you look closely, you can see the top of the Matterhorn, the Golden Horseshoe, and the old Tom Sawyer Island raft landing on the east side of the island. On the back it reads, Mark Twain. The stern-wheeler Mark Twain steams quietly out of Frontierland, bound for an exciting adventure down the rivers of America. It's postmarked June 22, 1971, with an Anaheim cancel and a 6-cent Eisenhower postage stamp, Scott number 1393. I assume they visit the park on Monday, June 21, 1971. When park hours were from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m., the weather was a high of 87 and a low of 62. It's addressed to Mr. and Mrs. W. Kresge of Mountain View, California. It reads, Monday afternoon. Dear Nana and Grandpa, I wanted to call you and tell you about Disneyland. Mommy and Daddy said no. This boat ride was nice. I shook hands with Mickey Mouse. Love, Levon, XOXO. Looking through the various books in my Disneyland library, I came across one I purchased a few years ago. It's a spiral-bound book that was given to the press somewhere around 1993. The front cover has images from Fantasmic, including Mickey fighting the dragon version of Maleficent, Monstro darting out of the water, Chernabog, Ursula, and even Kaa from the Jungle Book. At the top it reads, Disneyland, and at the bottom it has the Fantasmic logo and reads, Good battles evil in a fiery clash at the river's edge. Inside the book is divided into 7 sections. The first section is titled, Once Upon a Time, The History of the Walt Disney Company. This includes 5 single-sided pages of a timeline of the company, highlighting events almost every year from 1923 to 1992, and 2 pages listing Walt Disney Studios Academy Award winners. The next section of the book is dedicated to the 2 new attractions to Disneyland in 1992 and 1993, and is titled Fantasmic Erupts in 1992, Mickey's Toontown Delights in 1993. The first page is a press release describing Fantasmic, promoting the features and details of the new evening entertainment. Among the details are the number of performers, 50 cast members, the length of Kaa, 90 feet long, and in the breathtaking finale, a 35-foot-tall dragon will breathe fire and set the waters of the rivers of America aflame. The next 2 pages focus on Mickey's Toontown, including a detailed description of the new land and the story behind Mickey's Toontown, which I'm saving for another episode around the next Toontown anniversary. Who's Who in Disneyland is the title of the next section, and includes an image of Donald Duck on a skateboard wearing a helmet, knee pads, and elbow pads, Pluto, and Goofy wearing a purple turtleneck, a yellow hat, and a pair of blue jeans. This part of the press kit includes 4 pages listing information about individual characters and movie titles listing characters you might see around the park. Each section lists the film debut of the character or a movie, notes of their occupation, milestones, and some other fun notes listed at the end of each section. For instance, Mickey Mouse includes his film debut of November 18, 1928, his occupation as a versatile worldwide superstar, international symbol of goodwill, ambassador of the Walt Disney Company, his milestones, which include that he was the star of the first cartoon with sound, featured in the first film to utilize stereophonic sound, starred in more than 170 films and television programs, and that Walt Disney received a special Academy Award in 1932 for the creation of Mickey Mouse, and was the original voice of Mickey Mouse. It also includes that he's currently starring in a featurette, The Prince and the Pauper, Christmas of 1990. His special Disneyland notes include that Mickey is Disneyland's official host, and he receives more phone calls than anyone else at Disneyland. Add some flair to your mail by checking out stamps at Enfield Post. You can explore different stamp options on our Etsy site, grab some great deals by following EP Sunday Sales on Instagram, or create something special and have her design a stamp array for your invitation or celebration. You can head over to enfieldpost.com and explore all the different vintage postage stamps you can use on your next card or letter. That's ENFIELDPOST on Instagram and enfieldpost.com for your wedding and vintage postage needs. Enfield Post is the official postage stamp sponsor of the Sent from Disneyland podcast. The front of our next postcard has the Mark Twain, filled with guests passing by Cascade Peak. On the back it reads, "The Mark Twain steamboat passes Cascade Peak and its beautiful waterfalls, one of the newest additions to Frontierland, as it continues on a journey down the rivers of America." It's postmarked August 19, 1969, with an Anaheim cancel and a 6-cent John Wesley Powell 1869 Expedition postage stamp, got number 1374. I assume they visited the park on Monday, August 18, 1969, when park hours were from 8 a.m. to midnight. The weather was a high of 82 and a low of 67. It's addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Otto Euchre of Grey Eagle, Minnesota. It reads, 8/18. Hi, got here yesterday, wind at Knott's Berry Farm. Spent 12 hours at Disneyland today. It's really quite a place. Spent last night and tonight in a motel. Tomorrow morning we'll go to Marineland, then we'll head for home. Can't afford to stay in this state much longer. See you in a couple weeks, Steve and Ruth. The next section of this media book is titled Disneyland, a treasure chest of trivia, and includes 1.5 pages of trivia broken down by land. It's interesting to go through the trivia and look at extinct attractions or trivia that's changed through the years. For instance, in the New Orleans Square section, it mentions the one-of-a-kind shop, which would close 3 years after this book was given to the press. Following the trivia is a chapter on Disneyland fabulous facts and figures. This includes a breakdown of each land and their attractions, and data about daily and yearly park numbers. It's listed that Disneyland's Main Street USA has over 1,100 rim lights that outline each building, and that Disneyland guests buy 4 million hamburgers, 1.6 million hot dogs, 1.34 million orders of French fries, along with 3.2 million boxes of popcorn, 3.2 million servings of ice cream, and 1.2 million gallons of soft drinks each year. The next 7 pages has Disneyland's historical highlights, a timeline of Disneyland from 1955 through 1991. Each year includes additions to the park, highlights, and famous guests. This is followed by a list of dignitaries and celebrities who have visited the park. The last section has 4 pages dedicated to the Disneyland Hotel, Gateway to the Magic Kingdom. This was after a recent refurbishment to the hotel, upgrading guest rooms, lobbies, and meeting spaces. Overall, the book is an interesting piece to my library. I'd be curious to find if there were more press kits like this, or perhaps if this is the only one made in this style. My incoming postcard is sponsored by the Art Throwdown. Art Throwdown, or ATD, is a craft hour on Instagram, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern or 6 Pacific. Art Throwdown is a wonderful community of artists who love to share their craft, from creating sticker postcards and coloring techniques to intricate paper cutting and unique crafting. It's always a treat to watch a show and occasionally get some one-of-a-kind postcards from the group. Each host brings something a little different to each show. I'll list some of the regular hosts, or you can follow Russ Romano 2021 on Instagram. The front of my incoming postcard has Mickey and Minnie standing in front of Cinderella Castle in Walt Disney World. On the back it reads, Fantasyland. Mickey and Minnie Mouse wave a greeting to Magic Kingdom guests. In the background, the golden spires of Cinderella Castle sweep towards the blue Florida skies. It's postmarked September 16th, 2024, with a Santa Clarita cancel and a 49-cent Stamps.com Hogwarts postage stamp. It reads, 13 September 24. Hello. I hope you enjoy this vintage Disney World card. My last visit to Disney was actually dramatic, filled with tiffs with friends. In the end, we all had a good time. I saw a lot of the park. From CDM. Thank you so much for the postcard, Emily. I'm glad your dramatic trip ended well. When I'm at the parks by myself, I'm able to observe a lot of what's going on around me, and I'm always surprised how many arguments happen at the park, and things that you can overhear while people pass by. Once I spent a day at Disneyland, sending postcards, including what I overheard people saying at the park. That reminds me that I should spend another day doing the same thing on one of my next trips. Thanks for listening to Sent from Disneyland. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. It would also help to leave a 5-star rating and comment on whatever podcast platform you use. If you'd like to support the show financially, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/sentfromdisneyland. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Sent from Disneyland or my website, sentfromdisneyland.com. For questions and comments, send me a postcard addressed to Sent from Disneyland, P.O. Box 44, Hood, California, 95639. This podcast is not affiliated with Disney, the United States Postal Service, or any post office or Disney-related properties. Opinions expressed on this podcast belong to the host and guests of the Sent from Disneyland podcast. This podcast is produced and edited by Clocky McDowell, website designed by Misty McDowell, theme song was written and performed by Noah Sunday Lefkowitz. Take it away, Noah.